taste this on behalf of the audience. Let them know what you think about it. Hopefully you love it. We have 2 tastes set up for you.
All right, so the plain bread.
We want to make food a fundamentally different way to help people who are switching to a keto diet. People are really hurting without this. We want to take keto bread to the masses.
All right.
All right.
Jess,
Hey.
welcome to the Uprising Podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This is actually the first official podcast.
That's awesome.
Also thank you for being first.
Of course. It's a pleasure.
Good. So the Uprising Podcast is all about helping folks who are on some sort of health transformation journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to bring on people like you who are an expert in one dimension or another. Get to know you a bit, let people hear what you're all about, let people hear some of your stories, some of the things that you've collected as wisdom over the years. So I'm just going to ask you questions, and I'll put myself in the shoes of the listener, and ask them the questions that come to mind, and then we'll go from there.
That sounds awesome.
All right.
Ready.
Awesome. So why don't we start by just diving in a little bit to what you do for a living, like help people understand kind of what's your day-to-day look like.
Yeah. So I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I've been an RD for almost 10 years. I got my undergraduate degree from Ohio State University, go Bucks. And then I came down to Cincinnati and went to University of Cincinnati and got my master's in science degree. From there, we actually have to do an internship that's about a year-long training program that you can be placed all over the country. And so I was actually placed at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And from there, I moved back to Cincinnati because that's where I'm from, and got a job at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. In our training and in school, we never were taught about the ketogenic diet at all. So when I came to Cincinnati Children's Hospital and I was hired into a position where I was working with children who have epilepsy and seizures and using food as medicine with the ketogenic diet, I was like, what is this? As a registered dietitian, talking about how 90% of your calories are coming from fat was just completely foreign to me. So for the past, because we're always taught about my pyramid and my food plate and having everything balanced, and all of a sudden you're telling me I'm cutting my carbs down to less than 20 and going up to 90% fat. It was just really crazy. So I spent the past 9 years really delving into the ketogenic diet world, specifically with children who have epilepsy. And just recently I started to branch out a little bit besides working with just pediatrics and helping adults, because there's so much research that's coming out about using the ketogenic diet for almost anything that you want right now. But specifically for weight loss with adults, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, autism, traumatic brain injury, brain cancers. It's growing, and it's the best field to be in right now. So.
And kind of crazy that it sounds like you really didn't get exposed to this during your formal schooling.
Right. So the ketogenic diet has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And really, it actually fell out of use for children with epilepsy when all of these anti-epileptic seizure medications kind of came into play in the 1960s. And then it came back into the mainstream world in about the 1990s with the Charlie Foundation, which is the foundation for the ketogenic diet therapies. So if you ever want to check it out for epilepsy, they have tons of information on there. So
yeah, and for the listeners, folks who don't know, since Uprising is based here in Cincinnati, and actually the way I met you originally was, I had found out that we have this Cincinnati Children's epilepsy practice, and I'm starting a keto bread company. I'm like, oh my gosh,
perfect, right?
These are our people that we're trying to help. And I forget, it was through, actually, for all you customers, you know that we're an e-commerce only company, and we use a mix of FedEx, UPS, and Postal Service. But actually our UPS rep said, hey, you have got to find Jes and talk to her about your product because she's serving all these people at Children's. So it was really cool how we originally connected.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's what most people are wanting whenever they say, do you have any recipes for bread? And I would always have to be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, maybe I think one thing that listeners are probably curious about is in the dietitian's world, or maybe dietetics world, what does registered dietitian mean versus health coach versus like any of the various credentials that people might find when they're looking for an expert to kind of help them on their health journey?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So as a registered dietitian, you have to complete a 4-year bachelor's degree. And then you have to be matched with an internship that could be matched. You could be matched all over the United States. And you complete your internship program, and then you have to sit for a registration exam. And then you can become registered. And then you have to become licensed in the state that you're practicing. Versus health coaches or nutritionists. So they really just have to do like a 4-year, nutritionists just have to do a 4-year degree. They don't have to go through the stringent internship process and sitting for a registration board exam. So as a registered dietitian, you're actually under the medical group of Ohio. So
gotcha. Okay.
You're credentialed and licensed and able to practice.
Gotcha. So you have a lot of oversight.
Yes. Very much.
You have a license.
Yes, very much so.
And then how did you originally get interested or how did you first get exposed to the idea of keto?
Well, so when I actually got my first job at Cincinnati Children's was into neurology. So working with patients who have seizures and traumatic brain injuries and anything that has to do with the brain. And then we've had a ketogenic diet program for about 25, 30 years at Cincinnati Children's. And since then, we have just completely blown up because everyone knows about the ketogenic diet now. And it's amazing. For people who never would have thought about bringing it up before for treating their child, now it's becoming one of a top option to try versus all these medications and brain surgeries and other modalities for helping epilepsy.
So are you guys using it for more than just epilepsy or?
Yeah, so we have some children so there is a Netflix special called The Magic Pill that a lot of parents have watched, and there is a child that has autism on there. And so autism is becoming one of the bigger disease states that people want to try this low carbohydrate lifestyle with. It used to be all gluten-free, casein-free, which it still is, but now they're kind of transitioning into keto. There's a lot of studies that are being done on that right now. So,
side note, not very many people know this, but the very, very, very first spark for me to start Uprising was sitting there watching Magic Pill. And the moment that did it for me was watching the lady who was using the ketogenic diet as a cancer therapy.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no clue about, first off, all the various uses that people are using this diet for. But also just seeing her on that documentary when she makes the macadamia nut bread, going, wait a minute. I haven't eaten bread in a very long time. I had no idea you could make something that looks like that, that is keto friendly, that is low carb, that's made from super nutritious stuff like nuts. So that's so funny. Like that was a spark for me. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna start a keto bread company. I was just thinking, it would be great to have bread like that.
That's awesome. I mean, it's an awesome documentary. And it really, I love about it that it talks about a lot of the different disease states that the ketogenic diet now is being studied in. So specifically adult glioblastoma and brain cancers. The research for that is just through the roof. And University of Cincinnati actually has a phase 1 clinical trial going on right now studying using the ketogenic diet, modified Atkins diets.
Oh, really?
For brain cancer. So,
Okay. So then do you like collaborate with them through kind of the Cincinnati Children's practice?
Yeah, so we, as dietitians, the keto dietitian community is surprisingly quite small. We need a lot more people, so any dietitians that are out there that want to get specialized in keto, please come my way. But, so we're all a very tight-knit community. So the dietitians over at UC and we work very closely together to kind of just problem solve and help each other. And we have research projects going on, and it's just a really cool field to be in right now. So seeing it grow, oh my gosh, seeing it grow is just really special. Really encouraging.
And what, do you, from your lens, obviously you're inside of a medical community, what do you think sparks this explosion in people being aware of what this is and what it can do?
Yeah, so I don't know, but it's been slowly creeping up, the intensity, and the 2019 was really a year that it just kind of blew up. But I think that people are very, very in tune with their health, and they really want to, everyone's into all these diets, and the ketogenic diet actually is not a fad diet. A lot of people are saying that it's a fad diet, but like I said, it's been around for hundreds of years, but it wasn't used necessarily for weight loss. And so now there's so many studies that are being done that are proving that otherwise, that we actually can use this that our food can be killing us. That if we just change the way that we eat, we could cure ourselves from and not have to use all of this medication. And so that's why we always like to say using food as medicine. For a lot of people, changing the way you look at food is the number one thing, because we've been told for so many years that fat is bad. Fat is going to cause heart attacks. Fat is going to kill you. Now, eating just saturated fats like bacon, butter, and burgers, is that good for you? Well, no, obviously not. But so I think that people are starting to understand that having a variety of different fats and decreasing your simple sugars, decreasing your carbohydrates, finding alternatives for the things that they like to eat is actually really, really healthy, and it's changing their lives.
So one of the things that we find is, and I think this is probably especially interesting to see what your lens on this is. One of the biggest stressors for our customers is integrating it into the entire family. If I'm mom and I'm looking to live a keto lifestyle but no one else is, how do I operationally do that on a day-to-day basis? Or if some folks buy our product because it's gluten-free. If one person is gluten-free, well, then how do I meal plan? How does that work? Do you find that especially, given you're treating people who medically need this, so it's more of a have to have, not a nice to have, and there's even more rigor around how strict we have to be and less flexibility. What do you see happening with your families? Is that common? How do you see people kind of overcoming that struggle if it is a common thing for you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So for our kids who are on the ketogenic diet for a medical reason, we obviously, it's because it is a medical thing, the registered dietitians, the physicians, we are really on top of it, because we usually don't recommend the ketogenic diet for anybody less than 18 years old unless it's for a medical purpose. However, just eating healthier by eliminating the simple sugars, even if you don't go straight keto, just changing the way that you eat is healthy, and it's a good thing. And many of the families will tell me, well, our kid has to do this, and so we're all doing it. Now, they may not be adding 5 packets of butter to their 20 grams of broccoli, but they are still adapting that low carbohydrate, higher fat diet, because again, variety of healthy fats is good, and eliminating the simple sugars as a diet is also good.
So it's kind of sometimes it can have a bit of a waterfall effect. Hey, we're solving for this really strict, really healthy diet for this person who absolutely needs it. But, oh, by the way, if the rest of the family even eats close to this, we're probably going to have a bunch of benefits across the board.
Well, and it's also, not fair for the sibling to be eating cookies and cake and juice and everything while their sibling is having to eat butter and plain chicken, things like that. But for adults who are, using the, changing their lifestyle, because I don't really like to call this a diet, because it's not. It's a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
It's the way that changing the way that you look at what you eat and what you put in your body. So, even if it's not like this strict ketogenic diet where you're decreasing your carbs less than 20, even if you just change some of the different kinds of foods to make them healthier, like it's really amazing what it can do for some of these people. So,
in your opinion, kind of what are some of the most sustainable changes that you see people make, stick with, enjoy? Like, oh, this is now a lifestyle change. Maybe it's like, I love my broccoli with butter. Yeah. Fridays. I don't know.
Right.
Like, what are some of the things that you find that people try out, super sustainable, and becomes a staple of their lifestyle?
Yeah. So usually when people come to me, and adults, when they come to me and they say, Jess, I want to try the ketogenic diet, I kind of give them a backup. And I like to take things stepwise, because it's really hard for somebody who's been eating carbohydrates their whole life, that they're carboholics, to all of a sudden go down to 20 grams of carbohydrates or less. Not sustainable. They're going to get upset, they're going to get hangry, they're going to get the keto flu, they're going to go through all the things, and they're going to give up. So what I like to do in my practice is that I really like to go, I like to ask my clients, what do you think is reasonable for you and where you want to start? And then we stepwise kind of make adjustments from that. So if they're saying, Jess, 100 grams of carbs, that's all I can do right now. I'm like, all right, let's do that for a couple of weeks. We start tracking, we log. I have an app where I actually can be their coach, and I can see everything that they're logging, so the accountability is there. And then once they get there, they're like, it wasn't so bad. And so they can continue, so they see that they can do it.
Yes.
And with the accountability, that's really, really important too, to know that somebody's right there, like looking at what you're doing. And so that makes it more sustainable, because some of these diets, it's just, you're gonna fail, or you're going to go off and on and yo-yo, and then be like, oh, keto's not right for me, I'm going to go to something else, and I'm going to go to something else. So, it's just perseverance. And this diet, it takes some serious dedication. It really does, because it's a lot easier to go and grab something fast than, to prepare a whole meal that it fits your macros, and got the high fat, the low carb, moderate protein, making sure that everything's right. So,
And I do feel like, in our American culture right now, so many things, so many companies, so many products, Amazon, the like, they have figured out how to deliver immediate gratification, like constantly, right? So in your approach, which I think is very cool, it's like, almost, it seems like to me, it's like, hey, let's get some wins on the board. And the win is not necessarily you're at 3 millimolars ketosis levels. It's, have we made a significant step in the right direction?
Right.
Do you have confidence in that? Do we have a little bit of snowball going? Can we roll to the next level? Not how quickly can we get into ketosis?
Right.
And be, fat burning machine.
It's totally right. And, and for some people, it does take longer to get there. But really what I want to teach people as we do this stepwise fashion is that learning how to read food labels. You would be amazed how many people do not know how to read a food label or have never looked at a food label before. So I like to create a long-term goal and then multiple short-term goals, because I feel like that's much more realistic for people to meet, so that they feel like they are really hitting those goals to get to their long-term goals. So the low-carb part of this diet is actually surprisingly not the hardest part of this diet. It's the high fat that a lot of people just cannot seem to grasp.
Okay.
It's just like, what? You want me to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil when I'm cooking? That makes no sense. Like, why would you tell me to do that? But yeah, it's because once they get to that low carbohydrate point is when we really want to start adding fat, start burning that as fuel, because your brain can use glucose for energy, it can use ketones for energy. So we really want to have that switch, which is why we deprive the body of those carbohydrates so that we can use that fat as its primary energy source and get those ketones running.
Gotcha. So do you find that folks have a harder time with like the new taste of having a lot of fats in their meals, or is it, well, fats taste good, that's not a problem, and it's more just like the mental, I have been told for so long low fat, and I just can't fathom how I would possibly, it's like a leap of faith, like
exactly.
How is this not this 3?
Right, and especially a lot of my clients that are in their 50s and 60s, when they remember when the Time magazine article came out that said, fat is bad, cholesterol is bad. It had like the eggs with the 2 eyes and the bacon with the frown face. And then all of a sudden, like 10 years later, there's like butter. And it's like, butter is amazing for you. And there's a new type. So just trying to change the mental part of it is, and the other thing is, is when people go out to restaurants, they don't want to think that they're weird for ordering a hamburger without the bun, and instead of the fries, ordering a salad. So changing that mindset too, that this is good. You're making healthy decisions. Who cares what other people think? Do not compare yourself and do not just do what's best for you. So those are some of the hurdles that people really struggle with. And
do you find that it's typically more effective for, especially in the social situations, to arm people with like information so they can, talk in a very proud way, an educated way about their lifestyle, or do you find it more practical to give them, hey, do this, not that, eat this, not that, or hey, just abstain and be disciplined and just own it? Like, where do you find at the very practical level, because social pressure is real. That's super real, and I think that's oftentimes a huge reason why people can get off track. It's like, I don't want to be the lonely weirdo at happy hour that's like, no, I can't have this beer with all of you because this will knock me out of ketosis.
Right. Exactly.
Or, hey, can I inconvenience the table and like not have the bun?
Right.
By the way, then I eat it faster and then I'm done faster.
Totally.
It's like, So like, where do you find practically in those social situations or some like successful little tips?
Yeah. So you can really fall into a rabbit hole of the internet if you search ketogenic diet. Like, you could spend days going through recipes and things like that. So usually what I recommend at the beginning is keep it simple. We're doing this for your health. We're using this as a medication for your health. So do not try to compare yourself to anybody on Instagram who lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Like, come on, we got to think of realistic goals here. So I always kind of bring it back to what is realistic for you and where can we go from there. So in terms of social situations, it's the same thing as if you had an allergy. I mean, you shouldn't feel badly that you can't have a beer if you have a gluten allergy, So you just have to make modifications and really feel confident and dedicated.
All right, Jess. So
something smells really good.
During the break, Vanna White has brought over a couple taste tests for you.
Yeah.
So obviously here at Uprising, our thing is making the best keto bread of all time. At least that's what we're going for. And we want it to just taste rock star level. And we're taste first, keto second. So what we want you to do is taste this on behalf of the audience, and let them know what you think about it. Hopefully you love it. But we have 2 tastes set up for you. I personally believe that all bread must first be able to stand alone without being toasted, without putting a bunch of stuff on it. And that's like the true torture test.
Yeah.
So we have a couple slices of bread, nothing done to it whatsoever, just sliced straight off the loaf.
Okay.
And then we have my personal favorite way to eat it, which is with cinnamon, monk fruit, and Kerrygold butter toasted. For me, it's that memory of cinnamon toast as a child. And so I wanted to make that for you today.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It smells really good.
All right. So first up, why don't you take a slice of the bread, just plain?
All right. So the plain bread.
So just for the folks while you chew that, so that you don't have to try to talk while chewing or rush it. So folks, if you haven't tasted our bread, what we're going for here is a mild, nutty sourdough taste. And we want it to have a super soft chew. So this is really meant to do all of your classics.
Yeah.
So your French toast, your grilled cheese, your number one thing that people actually make with our bread is avocado toast. So that's what we're going for. Now, yes, you be the judge. How do we do?
So I haven't stopped eating this. I didn't notice that. I'm sorry, I just kept going. Okay. So the bread by itself, just straight out of the box, is actually really good. It's dense, but not in a bad way. It kind of does have a little bit of a nutty flavor because I think it does have almonds in it. So I can taste a little bit, but it's not overpowering.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So keep going. So the bread has 8 ingredients. So like you said, it had almond flour, golden flax seeds, psyllium husk, apple cider vinegar, egg whites, and then just salt, water, baking powder.
Yeah, awesome. Very simple, which I like, because if you look at some of the ingredients in some other keto products in general, that's the other thing why I teach a lot of my clients to learn how to read food labels, because if you cannot pronounce some of the ingredients, that you really should be questioning what you're putting in your body. So, I mean, I can pronounce every single thing, like obviously on here. So I always look at a food label first. I'm the crazy dietitian that's always like, so what did I just put in my mouth? So
yes. So one of the things that we don't have in our product, which we don't talk a lot about actually on our website, is preservatives. So this is a fresh product. There's no calcium propionate. There is nothing that you would find in products that are going to have to make it through really long supply chains. This is why we sell our product directly to our consumers, and we ship these little boxes straight to them, because yes, that ingredient list is super important to us, and we don't want to have anything in there that would be in question.
Yeah. And again, you would be amazed with how many people who have never read a food label in their life. And then they start going through it, and I start teaching, and I explain what different ingredients mean, and I love that it's really simple. So, yeah.
Now, have you tried, personally, have you ever made like at-home keto bread, or do any of your clients, or have you ever tasted making keto bread at home?
No, so I am not a baker. I don't want to do it. That's why I leave it up to the professionals like you guys. So no, I like to try a lot of different keto products that are out on the market, because then I can give real-time suggestions to my clients saying this is a good product or this is not so good. So I haven't actually ever made any by myself before, because I rely on you guys to do that.
Well, thanks, Jes.
So yeah.
Well, what I was wanting to help kind of the audience to understand is like, how do you feel that ours tastes? Because obviously, through the screen or through their earbuds, they're not going to be able to really smell and taste what we're feeling. And obviously it's cheaper to like make bread at home. And I totally support that. Like, if you have the time, the money, the curiosity to try to make bread at home for your keto lifestyle, I think it's a great way to save on your grocery budget. But it's super hard. And one thing that I noticed early on before I teamed up with my bakers was that my at-home breads can often be very eggy. Very hard to get, like in our bread, the crumb. So the inner part of the bread, like the holes, that's called the crumb for those that aren't bread aficionados, and I was not before I started a bread company, but that inner area is called the crumb. Ours is specifically meant to be dense enough to hold your butter, to have some body to it, and not be super airy like you would think of like a ciabatta loaf. Like, this is meant to be your sandwich loaf, but to get the crumb to do this, to hold together, is actually extremely hard to do
absolutely.
at home.
Yeah.
So that's something for folks to think about when they're trying to switch to this keto lifestyle, and if they want to bring bread into the equation, definitely an option out there. But I know from experience.
Yeah, and the other thing about this bread is that there is not any wheat that's in here. So some of the other breads, they actually do have wheat that can, for people who have type 2 diabetes or are sensitive to spikes in their insulin, that some of those products actually can do that. So that's another thing that I like about this bread. So yeah, I've definitely seen Vital Wheat gluten used as an ingredient, which gives me a little head scratch moment there. Right. Yep, exactly.
Okay, so I have tortured you by making you smell this lovely toast.
Oh, it's so good. It looks so good.
See what you think.
All right. And I could smell from the box as we were sitting here talking, I could smell the bread without it even being toasted. So that's really good. I was like, what's in that?
Yes, we want you to have the full bread experience here.
Well, that's really good, obviously.
So, as I was saying kind of before we went on air, like, this was my personal favorite way to eat the bread, or is my personal favorite way. And the reason is because this takes me all the way back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Mom would make cinnamon toast all the time. You had the little cinnamon sugar bear.
Oh, yeah.
So the moment I got bread back, I was like, wait a minute. Can I recreate that? And so obviously cinnamon, great for you. Grass-fed butter, totally good to go. Throw that on a toast with the Uprising bread, and then put in the monk fruit. And I love Lecanto.
Yeah.
But this is the founder's cinnamon toast.
Yeah, it's really good because, like you were saying about the butter like melting in, like the butter seems really deep. Like it really does. Like it's like that when you're going to get to the outside, it's like usually by the crust, there's like not as much butter as like the inside, and that's like it's all the way around. It's really good. Like it's the way you put it on. Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
So what do you notice kind of with the toasted version versus the untoasted version, or anything that really stands out to you that's unique versus what you might have expected from a keto bread?
So when it's toasted, obviously it doesn't taste as dense as when it's untoasted. But it doesn't get like hard. So some of the other keto breads will get really, really crispy, that they just crack, and they're like crackers, instead of like, you want that like soft, like bread feel when you're making like some kind of a toast of some sort, with a little bit of crunch, but not where it's gonna like crumble into like your hand. So, I mean, that was, that's really good. I like it a lot. I really like the toppings too.
Well, thank you.
It really makes it good choice on that.
I feel like there's not going to be any leftovers from this taste test.
Yeah, so I'm trying to be respectful and sharing, but keep picking it up as you can see. Okay.
Well, Jess, really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Really fun to learn from you. Picked up a lot of tidbits.
Awesome.
And I personally have, been consuming health information for years, and was like, super passionate about biohacking and, doing all sorts of weird experiments on myself. But I learned a ton from you. So I'm sure the audience got a lot out of it as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for spending your time with us.
Absolutely.
Any kind of final parting pieces of advice that you would, or things that you just, a message that you really want to get out to our audience? The person that's listening to this is probably just starting their keto journey, or they might be a little bit into it, but not really mastered it yet. Yeah. Or just like, hey, here's something I want people who are trying to create a health transformation to think about or know. Yeah. What would be your 2 cents?
That's a great question. So I think that one of my big things is to know that this is your journey, and to listen to your body and become in tune with how your body reacts to different foods, and not comparing, and knowing that everyone has their own way that their body is going to react to doing a change of a lifestyle. Like, changing their food. And then for those who are starting the ketogenic diet, so there's just so much information out there right now that I think that it's really beneficial to work with a registered dietitian who specializes in the ketogenic diet way of eating, because we really look at the whole picture. We make sure that, vitamins and minerals and constipation and the keto flu and fluid intake, there's just so many parts to this diet that it really could potentially be dangerous for some people if they don't understand how to do it properly. So I always recommend meeting with a registered dietitian to review what your goals are and get some accountability, and have somebody who is a health professional to be able to guide you through this change for your life, because it's not going to be something that just happens for a couple weeks and you're trying to fit into a dress. Like, this should be something that should become part of your life. So
yes.
Yeah.
And if folks wanted to get to know you better, like potentially think about working with you or find out more about you, where's the best place for them to go to get in contact with Jes?
Absolutely. So probably my website. So my website is www.theketord.com.
Awesome.
And you can find out all about my different packages that I offer. And I do one-on-one consulting. I do telemedicine. So if you're not in the Cincinnati area, if you're in Ohio, I can meet with you that way. And then my Instagram is just the Keto RD, but I'm not the best social media person, but
it's okay.
I'm learning.
So go to the website, folks.
I love working with so many different patient populations and just guiding them to a healthier you.
Awesome.
So.
Well, thanks, Jes.
Awesome.
And I'm sure folks will come over, check you out. I will put links to your website, your social media, below the podcast. So,
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome.
And hopefully we'll do it again.
Yes, I'm gonna eat the rest of this.
All right.
We want to make food a fundamentally different way to help people who are switching to a keto diet. People are really hurting without this. We want to take keto bread to the masses.